are breaking down that big story of the day, the charges against Alec Baldwin and one other person in the shooting death of Halyna Hutchins on the set of the movie Rust. Fingers pointed in every direction already. What we're hearing from the people accused and our team's interview with the special prosecutor late today. Plus, as we were coming on the air, President Biden was in it, flying over the devastation in California after those deadly storms wiped out homes and businesses. We'll take you live to the ground there and where this nasty weather is going to hit next. And the Treasury Secretary giving Congress and the White House just under 6 months to figure out this debt limit crisis, what it means for you and your wallet if they can't cut a deal. That's in the breakdown. Plus, take a look, you're about to see it, at a pretty bananas new plane design that's nothing like anything most people have flown on before. Why NASA, yes, NASA, says one tweak could be a game changer for the climate. And Instagram rolling out a new feature designed to help the mental health of teenagers, and it could help all the rest of us too. How quiet mode is supposed to work later on in the show. Hey, I'm Hallie, and we're starting tonight with that bombshell out of Santa Fe, the involuntary manslaughter charges against Alec Baldwin, along with one other person, for the shooting death of a cinematographer on the set of the movie Rust. Remember from the start here, prosecutors in New Mexico said they knew close to the beginning that the investigation would lead to criminal charges. They were pretty sure of it, and it has. Our Miguel Almaguer sitting down with the special prosecutor put on this case, asking her if she thinks Baldwin should go to prison for the death of Halyna Hutchins. Watch.
You know, it's not my call right now to believe whether he goes to prison or not. Our focus is to get justice for Halyna Hutchins and to let everybody know that just because you're an A-list actor, you're not going to be above the law.
Okay, so let's talk about what we know at this point. Baldwin, that A-list actor she's referencing, facing 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter. The armorer on set, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, also facing those same charges. Then there's David Halls. You see him on the right here. He was the assistant director of the movie. He signed a plea agreement for the charge of negligent use of a deadly weapon. Now, Santa Fe's DA says if Baldwin or Gutierrez-Reed or Halls, any of them, had done their jobs, Hutchins would still be alive today. Remember, she died after getting shot during movie rehearsals in Santa Fe in October of 2021. Baldwin was pointing the gun at Hutchins when it went off, killing her, hurting the director. But Baldwin's attorney, late today, is saying, hey, this isn't on his client, that the actor had zero reason to think there would have been an actual live bullet in the gun or anywhere on the movie set. He says Baldwin plans to fight this and thinks they will win. You've got Hutchins' family responding to all of this, too, in a statement from their lawyer thanking the DA and saying they agree with the decision. We've got Miguel Almaguer on the ground in Santa Fe, and Danny Cevallos has a closer look at, frankly, the complicated legal side of all of this. Let me start with Miguel here. This is really serious for Baldwin and for Gutierrez-Reed. Talk us through it.
Well, Hallie, these charges carry some serious time. We know that the involuntary manslaughter charges carries a $5,000 fine and up to 18 months in prison. But we also know there's been a special weapons charges added on to that. If convicted of that crime, that's an additional 5 years. So if those 2 sentences combined would be 6.5 years in prison if Alec Baldwin or if Hannah Gutierrez-Reed was convicted on all charges. Now, that's certainly not necessarily what's going to happen here. It's quite possible they could face lesser charges. They could plea out. They could even get probation. But there are high stakes on the table now. Of course, the district attorney telling us they are very confident they can prosecute and convict on this case. Meantime, you have Alec Baldwin's lawyer as well as Hannah Gutierrez-Reed's lawyer saying they're confident they will prevail in their side of the case, Hallie.
You know, I think it's important to remember, because, Miguel, you were on this from the jump, right? This story, which was so high profile from the beginning because of just how sort of horrific it was. And it's been a long time to get here, and there's been a lot that's been done. You had the sheriff's department releasing a ton of files on this case, like lapel camera video of the shooting. There were witnesses that were questioned. There were emails, texts, inventories, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Talk me through, in your conversation with the DA, what she told you about how she came to this decision, where this goes next.
Well, so we know that the sheriff's office conducted a year-long investigation. Then the DA and the special prosecutor for the last 3 months looked at this case. I asked them as we were all sitting down today if they were watching some of the other interviews that Alec Baldwin had given during that time, if they were aware of his postings on social media. And they say they watched everything, and all of that could potentially be part of a criminal case. Here's part of my conversation with the DA just a short time ago.
Alec Baldwin said he never pulled the trigger on the handgun that fired. Do you believe that?
That's not true.
and we know that from the FBI lab report. That gun would not have fired without the trigger having been pulled.
Now, of course, Baldwin's claim was that he was holding the gun and he released the hammer of the gun, and that when it clicked onto the gun fired, that he never pulled the trigger. The DA there saying that was not possible. I also asked the district attorney and the special prosecutor about Baldwin's statement that he knew someone was responsible for this crime, but that it wasn't him. They say that is not true. Hallie?
You've also got shooting for the movie, like the actual film production, starting back up this year too, right? Isn't that the plan?
Yeah, that's right. We were told that shooting on the resumption of Rust would actually begin in January at some time this month, that Alec Baldwin was on board to produce and also continue his acting role in that. And we also know that Matthew Hutchins, Halyna Hutchins' widower, was going to be an executive producer on that movie. We know he settled his settlement against Baldwin out of court. And so all of these things are still in the air. What happens next? We're not quite sure yet, Hallie. Yeah, we're going to find out, Miguel, and I know you'll be tip of the spear on that. Thank you. It's really good reporting that you're doing out there. Appreciate it. I want to bring in Danny Savalos now. Danny, to use a corporate speak, let me put a pin on something that Miguel just mentioned on this settlement. Let me ask you first, what is a viable, reasonable, pragmatic legal defense strategy here for Alec Baldwin in this instance? You understand what it's like to be a defense attorney. What might be the strategy we see from them, given their confidence that they believe they'll win?
There are several, in my view, and what you're going to see here is this is going to come down to a battle of the experts. Each side is going to employ a firearms expert, a stunt expert, all kinds of experts to explain to the jury what should have happened on this set, because the jury will need to be educated about the often unusual world of film set and using firearms and having an armorer and a first assistant director and all of these duties. That is somewhere where Baldwin's team can make some headway. But in addition, this is unlike any other firearms case in that it may be the only time where somebody holding a firearm could honestly say, I didn't know I was holding a firearm, because he was handed a firearm and told it's a cold gun. Now, you can make the argument, the prosecution will make the argument that, hey, whether or not you knew it was cold, you pointed a gun at someone. But I think the defense maneuver should be, this was as much a gun to Alec Baldwin as a block of cheese. There was no idea in his head. It could have been a fake alien ray gun on a science fiction film shoot. The point is, Alec Baldwin didn't believe he held a gun in his hand. He believed he was holding a prop. Now, of course, that's an issue of fact, and reasonable minds could probably differ. But if it's a close call, prosecutors should not bring cases that they think they can just charge and, hey, when it comes to proving my case beyond a reasonable doubt, well, we'll see what happens, let the chips fall where they may. Prosecutors should bring cases they believe they can prove beyond a reasonable doubt. And it may be the case this prosecutor believes that, but if they're being honest, they'll probably concede this is a defensible case.
You heard Miguel mention the settlement that was created, that was settled to between Baldwin and others involved in the movement. At the time, at the movie, I should say, Hutchins' husband said he didn't have any interest in engaging in what he described as attribution of blame. Now here we are. Could this settlement have impacted the DA's decision-making at all, do you think?
Yes and no. I mean, in the ordinary case, when a potential defendant settles with a victim or a complainant, then that can really affect the DA's decision to charge. They still can go forward. In fact, consider that in most states, in domestic violence cases, there are laws that say even if the complainant doesn't want to go forward, the DA must continue to prosecute. So certainly the DA is not bound by a settlement, but normally it takes the wind out of the sails of a prosecution if a victim wants no part of that prosecution. I suspect the reverse happened here. I suspect that the DA's office in this case probably saw this settlement and thought, look who thinks he's a Hollywood big shot. And the reason I say that is you just had an interview with the DA, with the prosecutor, and she gave that line, which is pretty close, which is, hey, just because he's a Hollywood star doesn't mean he's above the law. That, to me, suggests that this is a prosecution that may be a little bit because this is a celebrity, not in spite of the fact that he's a celebrity.
Danny Savalos, it's important analysis. Thank you very much for bringing it to us. It's good to hear your perspective on this. Appreciate it. We're going to keep an eye, obviously, on how all this plays out, but we want to go somewhere else out west here, and that is California, because you are seeing, that's Gotti Schwartz right there. This is a live picture, because right behind Gotti is President Biden, right? What you are seeing is the president on the ground in California. That was that shot. It's messy because this is live TV and because there's a group of pool reporters with the president who's moving around. They're running. They're trying to walk with him as he's looking at some of the damage here from those awful storms that have devastated the state. He is obviously touring around with, that's not California Governor Gavin Newsom, but that's who he's been with. This is from a little earlier today. People lost lives. Businesses are gone, just wiped out and destroyed in this series of storms that killed at least 21 people. At one point, the president was also up in a chopper looking at the damage from the air on everything. As the FEMA administrator is telling reporters today, they're looking at several $100 million in the initial estimates, but they still haven't even been able to get to everything. Let me bring in now Gotti, who is there. Gotti, I know it's kind of everything's happening all at once. Give us a sense of what you're seeing on the ground there.
Yeah, so right now we just saw the president. You saw that shot. He was over there on the pier, or right next to the pier, behind this restaurant called Zelda's. It's a really popular restaurant here in Capitola. And you got behind us here, you can see there's a crowd of several hundred people that have all gathered. It feels like the town of Capitola has all come out, and they were waving at the president. The president was standing there on the side, where surveying a lot of the debris, waving back at some of the people that are gathered. We understand from the pool reporters that are with the president right now, he spoke to several of the restaurant owners in this area. Some of these restaurant owners saw pieces of debris. In fact, Hallie, they saw pieces of that pier. If we can show you, that pier is missing the middle chunk right there, that middle portion. Pieces of the pier actually crash into some of these restaurants, some of these businesses. This is just some of the $55 million worth of estimated damage here in Santa Clara County. Overall, across California, these 9 atmospheric rivers that swept in, it's estimated that they may have caused up to $1 billion worth of damage. So right now, the president meeting with Gavin Newsom as they survey this damage and talking about how the federal government can assist the state of California. Hallie, back to you.
Hey, Gotti, can you talk through some of the damage estimates for us? I mean, this is going to be expensive to clean up.
Yeah, absolutely. And so $55 million for some of the infrastructure here in Santa Cruz County. That includes things like the pier. And when we're talking about cleanup, that's going to possibly take a year to rebuild, according to city officials here. And then we start looking all across California. There's flooding. There were 500 mudslides. It's going to be a lot of shoring up of roads that were damaged. Many of those roads washed away. So the tabulations are still happening right now. Those are just estimates, but they are preliminary estimates because the surveys are still continuing. Again, this was 9 atmospheric river events that swept through here, and the ground is still extremely saturated in California. So they are hoping that we don't get another month like we saw last month. Hallie?
It's just so incongruous, Gotti, because I get it. People are there. I thought I heard some maybe cheering or applause, right, as the president has been walking around. Yep. It's one of these things where for the commander-in-chief, it is this sort of terrible ritual that he has to do, a president, going and visiting some of the hardest hit places in the country that have been hit by natural disasters like this.
That's right. And the town here, I mean, the cheering is still going on. In fact, you see everybody has moved over there.
That's because of the president, right?
And then you've got the motorcade. Yep, and the motorcade is actually going out. So you see the ambulances on the backside of the motorcade, and everybody is cheering as the motorcade goes by. But this is, yeah, Hallie, you've covered these. There's so much pomp and circumstance that goes into this. We have the 3 Ospreys that were flying overhead. We've got the Coast Guard off the coast here. We've got law enforcement all over the place. And then we saw those 2 helicopters, Marine One, flying over this area. So for the community here that was hit with storm after storm after storm, a lot of them do feel like the federal government is paying attention. We understand that there are 500 officials from FEMA, 500 administrators and staff from FEMA all throughout California, helping to process some of those damage estimates. But for today, here in the town of Capitola, a lot of people coming out just to wave at the president as the president waved back at them as he surveyed this damage. Hallie?
Gotti Schwartz, right in the thick of it there in Capitola. Gotti, thank you. So while the cleanup, as you just heard Gotti lay out, is happening in California, guess what? One of the storm systems that smoked that state is now heading east, where nearly 21 million people are under some kind of winter weather alert at this point. Look at this, 2,500 flight delays, 200 flights canceled. That's not so awful unless you're one of the people on one of those 200 flights. Parts of Nebraska, Minnesota, Michigan, look at this, tons of snow. Marquette, Michigan, and the UP looking at up to a foot of snow by tomorrow. Then you've got parts of Indiana and Ohio. It's not the snow, it is the rain, it is the wind. 1 million people there under a severe thunderstorm watch. And then check out this video taken in Cincinnati. That looks ominous, because it is really windy conditions, big hail, the potential for tornadoes. That is what they are bracing for in these overnight hours. Out east, gonna be really wet, all of it leading up to several more storms set to hit the East Coast this week. Jesse Kirsch is live for us now. And Jesse, already they're getting a few inches of snow in Minnesota. Tell us what you're seeing.
Yeah, well, while you're looking at ominous clouds in Ohio there, Hallie, things are clearing up a little bit here. Right now, snow's pretty much reduced to a flurry. It's been snowing throughout the day here. And remember, we're in the Twin Cities. They are used to the snowfall here. And I can tell you, walking around in a neighborhood that underfoot, even though you could see that it seemed like there had been some clearing done, there's still a white sheet on the pavement and definitely slick conditions out here. But this walkway is in pretty good shape, and it's turning into that sloshy mess. And I think one of the things that sticks out to me, all those different places you were just hitting right there, right? We're looking at Colorado, we're looking at Nebraska, we're looking at here in Minnesota, we're looking at Ohio, looking at some severe weather, and then out on the East Coast, we're going to be seeing this nasty winter rain. All of that is tied to one winter storm that started in California on Sunday, and it has just continued to be making its way east, and it is not done with us yet, Hallie.
Jesse Kirsch live for us there in St. Paul. Jesse, thank you very much. Stay dry, stay warm, my friend. Appreciate it. Bringing you back here to Washington. The Supreme Court today did something that we don't often see the Supreme Court do. It put out a statement about its own internal business, about that unpublished draft of the opinion that eventually overturned Roe versus Wade getting leaked. They've been on this leak hunt. And right now, the Supreme Court is saying they don't really know who did it. Remember, this was huge news when Politico first reported on it back in May of last year. This leaked a month before the court's actual decision came down, which closely matched what was leaked. That led to scenes like this one that you're seeing, abortion rights protests across the country. Officials put up a security fence around the Supreme Court building. That was up for like weeks, months. Now, according to this new Supreme Court report, officials talked to like 97 employees. They all denied being the leaker. I want to bring in Kelly O'Donnell for more on this one. Kelly, what's so interesting on this, right? The upshot of the report is there's no news in it. There's no news that says this is the person who leaked it, right? What is interesting is we found out that more than 80 staffers, for example, had access to this draft. This was at a time when people were in some ways working from home because it was post-pandemic, et cetera. And the Supreme Court's coming out at all and saying something is interesting here.
Which they often don't do.
Right.
And this is so unusual. And they called this a grave breach and an injury to the court. For true crime lovers, there's some good stuff in this.
Talk to us. Who is not a true crime lover? Walk us through it.
When you look at what they did do, they had a fingerprint of interest, yet they could not connect it to anyone that there was other supporting evidence to suggest that person was responsible. They did things like analyze the hardware, a printer attached to someone who was an employee of the court, trying to analyze could that printer have produced a hard copy that could have been the leaked document. They looked at the digital footprint or fingerprint of the copy that was ultimately published in Politico, and could that provide any clues? So they had interviews with witnesses, people who work at the court, and when you look at 9 justices and how much staff there is, they analyzed the output of the machines at the court to see who would have had access to hard copies. So they did a lot of those things that are kind of the shoe leather of investigation. But this whodunit is still a whodunit. We don't know who was responsible. What the report also does not indicate is to what degree, if any, the justices themselves may have been questioned. We don't know the answer to that. Interesting. So this was about employees and staff. And the report really does make recommendations about how to tighten security around sensitive documents and how to have greater control over who would have access to drafts of opinions and things that could lead to questions about where the court would go on other interesting and pivotal rulings.
Could that tightening of security affect the way that the court does its work? Because for so long, right, the court and its staffers operated on basically the honor system.
The
like
honor
trust
system?
that you weren't going to go out and blab about this really pivotal stuff.
And it has worked that way for decades without this kind of a problem. The pressures on a ruling of this magnitude in the Dobbs case overturning Roe were so enormous, and we now see the consequences. So unclear what steps the court will take, but this investigation remains open. They've given us an answer here that it's a placeholder.
Right.
But they are wanting to show they took action.
You said the investigation remains open. So it will? They'll keep looking? Because this felt a little bit like, well, we sort of exhausted the big stuff.
I think they have given themselves cover to say they've done this, but I think they are not closing the door if information becomes available.
Kelly O'Donnell doing double duty, as you often do, covering all things in
Nice to
Washington.
see you.
Thank you, Kelly. You too. Appreciate it. Let's stay in Washington with controversial congressman, controversial to say the least, George Santos now responding to two more allegations we've learned about in the last 24 hours. First, from a Navy veteran who's accusing the congressman of basically stealing $3,000 from a fundraiser meant for his dying dog. Watch.
I thought it was BS. I knew it was BS. I felt it. From the minute I didn't get that money, like in the first couple of days, I knew there was something up. I knew it was fishy.
So Santos is out responding today. He calls the reports that he would let a dog die shocking and insane. You know, fact check, sure, right? Like, yeah, that's right. But he's not really denying it. Specifically, his team has not responded to our request for comment on that. He is denying something else, though. Some reports based on what our team's hearing from a prominent drag queen in Brazil that Santos performed in drag as well. Ali Vitale joins us now. Ali, whether George Santos showed up in drag and did a drag performance, who cares, right? Like, that's fine. Yeah. What it sounds like he might not have done is told the truth about it. And this is yet another example, as you and I have talked about before, a drip, drip, drip. Another day, another drip of something that George Santos has said or done that is being called into question now. Especially from a guy who, by the way, his policies do not align, right, with members of what the LGBTQ plus community would want to see.
Right. And again, he campaigned as openly gay. He has reiterated the idea that he is partnered and has a husband. So he is part of that LGBTQ plus community. But there is a spate of anti-LGBTQ rhetoric and policy coming from within the Republican Party right now. And if you look specifically at the way that Republicans and conservatives have targeted drag queens broadly in this current political moment, they have demonized that group of performers repeatedly, especially at the state and local level. And so this is another moment, yes, of a Santos lie, where this one drag queen in Brazil who is considered, calls herself the RuPaul of Brazil, so a top iconic drag queen, if that's true, saying that she was someone who was a mentor to Santos during that time in Brazil when he was younger, but he's now saying that he never performed in drag. It's, again, another example, Hallie, of things that just on their face wouldn't be big deals, but they're just not true. And you sort of have to wonder, like, why are we in this consistent cycle with Santos?
The thing that matters here, the thing that he's pointed to is basically like scoreboard, like I got voted in, all these people voted me in. Well, now we're hearing from some of those constituents, the people in his district, including from one veteran. I want to play what this person had to say. Watch.
I'm not sure what straw will break the camel's back, but I too call for McCarthy to man up, stand up, speak up, and do something to expel George Santos.
Let's be really clear. 0% sign that that is going to happen based on the signals that Speaker Kevin McCarthy has given so far. And it's important to note, as has been pointed out to me, it's not illegal to lie to me and you as reporters. Like, we don't like it, but that's not against the law. It is not against the law to lie to your voters, right? Like, what is against the law is to lie and break campaign finance rules, right? Like, that's where things get sketchy. And it feels like if there is going to be any accountability, and that's a big if, and we don't know sort of where some of these investigations are going, that that's where any issue would be.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. The legal stuff actually has the teeth to force the hand of leadership here. But at the same time, every single day, every other day, a new story coming, it feels unsustainable for Republicans who are going to come back into town next week. And guess what the question is that they're going to be asked? Yes, we're going to ask about the debt ceiling. We're going to ask about policy. But we're also going to ask about this person who is squarely within the party's ranks. When they have a very slim majority, they're playing a numbers game. And George Santos is an important piece of that.
Ali Vitale, live for us on Capitol Hill. Good to see you, Ali. Thank you.
You too. All
right, folks, get your calendars ready and circle it. You probably don't actually circle a calendar because I'm sure it's on your phone, but like make a marking in your GCal, June 5th, because that is the day that the Treasury Secretary says that her so-called extraordinary measures to keep paying the country's bills basically aren't going to work anymore. Okay, June 5th, because today we hit our debt limit. Here, imagine if you didn't have enough money to pay off what you owe. Like, let's say you owe $10, you truly only have $5. That is where we are. We have told everybody we will pay you the $10. We only have $5 to give. So 6 months from now, Yellen says Congress basically has to make up those $5. They've got to raise the ceiling and prevent debt collectors from knocking down our door. And she's like, please don't wait. Please get it done sooner, not later. This sets up a major fight with House Speaker Kevin McCarthy saying some kind of an increase with no strings attached is totally off the table. The White House is like, shouldn't be off the table. We're not going to negotiate cuts. We've got more on what this means for your money, because this could affect your money in a second. But let me bring in Ryan Nobles on Capitol Hill first. The question is, what could negotiations look like, even as what the White House and Democrats are saying? Why are we even talking about negotiations? Like, this is non-negotiable. We got to do it, or else there's going to be major consequences.
Yeah, first off, Hallie, I just want the way you framed it, like June 5th is something fun. Like, we should have a party on that day if we're all going to put it in our calendars anyway, even though.
Yes. No, put it on your calendars to be really stressed out about. Let me just be really clear about that.
Right. Yeah, it is a level of pending doom. But yeah, you're right. We're in this position again where Republicans are essentially holding the debt limit hostage to try and get concessions in a number of other areas that don't have anything specifically to do with the debt ceiling. You know, it's important to point out that this is spending that the United States has already signed up for. It has to meet its obligations, or it could mean a big fiscal calamity. And, you know, both the leaders of the Senate, Republican and Democrat, have made it clear that they think this is something that needs to be done. This is what Chuck Schumer has said. From rising home costs, interest rates, cuts to Social Security, Medicare, and more, it's clear who will actually pay the price of gratuitous partisan politics, and that's American families. This is Schumer warning about the possible outcomes if they do not raise the debt ceiling in time. And Mitch McConnell does seem to agree. He says, in the end, I think the most important thing is that America must never default on its debt. It never has, it never will. But we'll end up in some kind of a negotiation with the administration over what the circumstances or conditions are to have the debt ceiling raised. They want to have this done. The problem, of course, Hallie, is House Republicans, who seem to be willing to play chicken with this deadline to try and get some other things.
Let me play for you something that caught our team's attention from the CEO of J.P. Morgan Chase, Jamie Dimon. Watch.
We should never question the creditworthiness of the United States government. That is sacrosanct. It should never happen. This is not something you should be playing games with at all.
There was a time when comments like that might have actually shaken up, I think, some Republicans, right? One of the country's most powerful CEOs. That's not what's really driving the party in this fight, though, right?
Yeah, no, it is not CEOs in Davos, that's for sure. It is Republicans in these Republican-heavy districts who believe that the country spent too much. They believe the debt ceiling is the solution for that. House Republicans believe this is their only leverage point. Even if it has nothing to do with spending specifically, they know that this is something that they can hold over the White House's head to get concessions in other areas. So this is a staring contest right now, Hallie, and it likely will go right up until that deadline in June.
We know Congress loves a deadline, even if the rest of the global economy would love to not see that. Ryan Nobles, thank you very much. Appreciate it. So Ryan has laid out the politics, but what does it actually mean for what I know you care about, which is your money, your wallet, your budget? Here's the breakdown. The debt ceiling. We're one of only 2 Western countries that have one, just us and Denmark. So why does it exist? You may know if you've seen Hamilton. The very first Treasury Secretary made a system where the U.S. would borrow money to buy stuff and make sure to pay it back. Our whole budget runs on debt. The Constitution lets Congress have spending power, and the White House used to have to ask every time they wanted to borrow more. But during World War I, they changed that, making this limit kind of like a credit card cap. You can charge up stuff, but you eventually have to pay the bill. If you don't, major red flags. Why?
Massive global recession. How's that for putting it in plain English here, right?
Yep, it would be that bad. It's not just politics. It's going to have a real impact on your life. Because tax revenue, the money that the government gets from the taxes we all pay, that's not enough. If the federal government can't borrow more money, that means they won't be able to pay for, well, pretty much anything else. Members of the military won't get checks. Neither will seniors on Social Security. Medicare, Medicaid, no payments there either. Federal courts will shut down, and the lights will go off in government buildings. Literally, because the utility companies won't get paid. Even just the threat of a debt ceiling fight has caused a panic before. In 2011, markets had their most volatile week in years. And in 2013, the fight sent interest rates soaring.
You get into a place that affects every aspect of American life.
Here's the thing. Every other time we've had a debt limit fight, Congress found a way to get it done. Since 1960, it's been raised 78 times. And it doesn't really matter who's in the White House either. 29 times it was under a Democratic president, 49 times with a Republican. So this Congress now has less than 6 months to not make history. Coming up, Police using tear gas against people protesting pension changes. What's going down in France and our 5 things. Plus, New Zealand's prime minister says she's stepping down soon. Reaction to her shocking announcement and why she's doing it now. Coming up. A lot of new reaction around the world today to that surprise announcement from New Zealand's Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, saying she's going to step down from her position by next month. Look at what we heard from Vice President Kamala Harris today, saying that the Prime Minister has inspired millions of people around the world. The Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, saying that the difference Jacinda Ardern made is immeasurable. The Australian Prime Minister saying she's shown everyone how to lead with intellect and strength. This is all after the PM said she decided she'd no longer had enough in the tank to keep doing her job. But that's...
I am human. Politicians are human. We give all that we can for as long as we can, and then it's time.
She'd made history, taking office as the world's youngest female leader, dealing with challenges from that deadly Christchurch shooting to the pandemic. Megan Fitzgerald is joining us now with more on this. And I think it is completely fair to say that what Jacinda Ardern is doing is human. It is brave. She is saying burnout is real. And that there are other things in life besides what you do for a living, whether you are like a worker bee in Washington, D.C., or you are the Prime Minister of New Zealand. She said she just doesn't have more to give. It's a fascinating look at what's going on inside the mind of a person who has led New Zealand through some really challenging moments. She has made headlines globally for pushing back on misogyny, for example. And this is another way that it feels like she's sort of forging some new ground.
Absolutely, Hallie. I mean, and that's part of what makes this so shocking is that it's not every day that you see a prime minister, a head of government stepping down, but the level of candor that we heard from her. I mean, basically just saying that, look, I know what it takes to do this job, and I also know that I'm no longer in a position to be able to do this job justice, saying that, you know, she's burned out, as you mentioned, and that she knew at the time that she was the one to lead. And now, fast forward 5.5 years later, she knows that she's no longer the one to lead, and she's telling the people this. So often, you know, we hear other reasons why people are stepping down. It certainly appears as though this is the truth. She's burned out and she's stepping aside, Hallie.
What happens in New Zealand now, right? Like, in other words, you know, the fact of a prime minister stepping down, it is rare, as you say. It also happens, and there's like a process and things unfold, right? A prime minister stepping down for this reason is extraordinarily rare, right? And being so honest about it and being so sort of real about it. I wonder, like, what happens from here in New Zealand? How is it playing there? What happens politically?
Yeah, so the next step's Sunday. That's the first step in this process. That's when we know the Labour Party, her party, will be voting on who they want to lead next. There's going to be a vote. Whomever that person is has to win more than 2/3 of the vote to be able to move on. And, you know, there's a lot of names that are being tossed around, a lot of ministers. There's Chris Hickson. He's the minister of COVID-19. As you mentioned, you know, the prime minister was praised for the way in which she handled the pandemic in the early days. And so this is a minister who also shares in that responsibility. He's well known. There's the Minister of Justice who could be chosen. There's the first foreign female minister who could be chosen as well. But, you know, I want to go back to the fact that she also said a lot of things. I mean, you know, as you mentioned, she was praised for the way in which she handled that shooting in her country where 51 people were killed. But she says that part of the legacy she wants to leave behind is one of kindness. This idea that you can be a politician, you can be kind, you can still be strong, you can be empathetic, and you can still be decisive. So whatever you think of her, because obviously her popularity is going down, whatever you think, you know, I mean, what a way to go out, right?
That is for sure. Megan Fitzgerald, thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, the U.S. getting ready to announce another big military aid package, basically more help. That means for Ukraine. TBD on the final price tag, but it's probably going to be well over $1 billion and include more weapons and armored combat vehicles. Number 2, look what's going down in France, where French police are firing tear gas on some protesters in Paris today. More than 1 million people were out in cities across the country demonstrating against plans to raise the retirement age from 62 to 64. These big strikes have disrupted stuff like schools, other public services. At least 30 people have been arrested. French President Emmanuel Macron says he's still going to go ahead with these planned pension changes. Number 3, the Colombian Army rescuing somebody who'd been lost in the Caribbean Sea for weeks. Take a look. See that barely little speck circled on your screen right there? That's a sailboat that this guy was in for 24 days. The Army says it spotted the word help on the hull of the boat. The man said he was repairing the boat when he was swept out to sea by a storm. He survived by eating a bottle of ketchup and a couple of canisters of spices on board. Absolutely incredible. Number 4, Florida Republican Congressman Greg Steube is in the hospital after falling something like 25 feet off a ladder. His office says he was cutting trees at a Sarasota property when it happened. The congressman has serious injuries, but nothing life-threatening, according to tweets from his official account. Number 5, Amazon. Have you heard about this? Amazon shutting down Amazon Smile, its charity donation program. That's coming after some cost-cutting pushes by the company. If you know Amazon Smile, you know that it was when Amazon would donate like 1% of purchases to whatever charity you picked. Over the years, it's been something like $500 million. Officials say today actor Julian Sands has been missing now for 5 days, ever since he went on a hike in Southern California last week. You might know him. You might know his face from movies like A Room with a View or Leaving Las Vegas or Warlock. The last known location, Mount Baldy in San Bernardino County. That's right here. Sands was reported missing around 7:30 back Friday evening. That's when crews started looking for him on the ground. They had to stop the next day, Saturday, because of those storms in California we've been telling you about. Trail conditions got super slick. There were avalanche concerns. Crews haven't been able to pick up the search again since then. Dana Griffin has more on that.
Hallie, we are here in the San Gabriel Mountains where there is a desperate search for actor Julian Sands, last seen nearly a week ago. Investigators have found his car nearby. They also used cell phone tracking technology to figure out where his cell phone last pinged. That's why they're concerned that he tried to hike near the Mount Baldy area. Investigators say this is a very dangerous area for hikers right now. That's why they're asking even the most experienced to stay away. Investigators have said that Julian Sands is a very experienced hiker, but the concern is tonight more snow is expected. And investigators say right now they cannot search the ground because it is just too dangerous. They are searching from above, but they say once conditions improve, they will resume that ground search. Hallie?
Our thanks to Dana Griffin for that report. Still to come here on the show. You know, these days it's pretty easy to make AI-generated art, but that's raising a bunch of questions about plagiarism and who gets paid. We're taking a look at the controversy right after the break. So you know there's been a lot of controversy lately around AI, artificial intelligence, online, in schools, and now in the art world. Look at some of the stuff you see on your screen. That's all art generated by an AI app. It's called Midjourney. All you have to do is type in the word imagine followed by any word, and the software creates some kind of an image or a picture or a piece of art based on what you've plugged in. So artists are saying, well, wait a second. The app makes these images by compiling, sweeping in all sorts of other images, like meaning actual human artists' art, and they're not getting paid for it. Midjourney is now facing a class action lawsuit, saying that it's used billions of images without getting artists' permission or for paying them. Jake Ward joins us now. And Jake, you've actually bought this kind of art without actually knowing it was created by AI. Like, explain how this is getting so popular.
Well, I mean, it's so popular because it is so extraordinarily easy, Hallie. I mean, the reason that people are so, astounded by it, and I will say, there's literally nowhere I go right now where I don't either show this thing off to people or they're not showing it off to me. I mean, everybody is really fascinated by this because it does such an uncanny job. You type in a prompt and it creates things, like a, snowy mountain with a cabin in the foreground, leopard splashing through water. Bang, it comes out at you in 60 seconds or less. I bought that particular piece that you just saw a second ago, this Denzel Washington kind of portrait. I didn't even realize that that's what it was. I wrote a book about how AI is beginning to simulate human creativity, and I got fooled. So it's just endlessly fascinating to everybody, and the convenience of it is, of course, the big part of it.
There is a devil's advocate argument to this because some experts are like, maybe we're overestimating how sophisticated these AI programs are. One professor writes, I'd like to believe the discerning customer who appreciates art will notice the difference and gravitate toward the work of creators. Based on your reporting, is that Like, is that even possible? Or how much of a threat is this AI art?
The thing that so many, experts have said is, well, if you really think about the nature of art, then people who actually understand art will understand that this is not art. But that doesn't really matter. It is all in the eye of the beholder. When I went actually up to Seattle to speak to the creator of that piece that I bought without realizing what it was, I said to him, should you have revealed it to me that you made this thing? And he said, well, yeah, maybe, but also, didn't you like it? Right? So beauty may very well be in the eye of the beholder. I should also mention here, Hallie, that the lawsuit that you mentioned that Getty is filing not against Midjourney, it's against another company that's just like it. But again, this is the new world, because if this software samples this body of work, does it owe some infinitesimal amount of money to each one of the artists that it sampled? We don't know, and I think that's going to get worked out in court. But for the moment, it definitely has the art world and really all of us by the throat, Hallie.
So interesting. Jake Ward, thank you very much. We're looking forward to seeing more of Jake's reporting tonight on Nightly News with Lester Holt, 6:30 Eastern, wherever you watch, not stream, your local NBC News station. Coming up here on this stream, travel could look a little bit different by the end of the decade, and travel may be greener, too, because of what you're seeing on screen. We're getting into how it'll work. Plus, take a look at this, what you're about to see. Can you tell what this is? People are trying to break a world record with it. We're going to explain in the local. NBC News covers hundreds of stories every day, and because you couldn't possibly read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. From our Northeast Bureau, an NBC News exclusive, a Massachusetts high school hasn't been able to turn off any of its lights for a year and a half. Why? The district cannot turn them off because the software that runs the lights failed. An official there says it's been costing taxpayers like thousands of dollars a month. There's a little good news. The part needed to fix the system that doesn't work is coming in from China, finally, so the whole thing should be set up, ready to go next month. From our Southeast Bureau, a 12-year-old boy from Massachusetts caught a great white shark off the coast of Florida. He was sport fishing with his family. Look at this. They knew he caught something big. It took 45 minutes to reel it in before they even knew it was a shark. The boy was attached to the fishing pole, but his mom and her friend had to hold him in the seat. They eventually tagged it and let it go. Out of our Western Bureau, Pizza Hut is trying to break the world record for the biggest pizza ever made with this giant thing. This is 14,000 square feet of pie. It's like 68,000 slices. They cooked it in pieces with a heater that kind of did this over it, hovered. The food didn't go to waste. It got donated to charity. That's a lot of pizza, folks. That's a lot of pizza. Turn into a story now that might have flown under your radar. Take a look at this airplane. See how the wings are attached on top of the body? Hang on, let's see if you can see it. Do you see how it looks like the plane has shoulder blades, kind of? Like, that's what a plane could look like that you could be taking off of in the next decade. Because engineers at NASA are teaming up with Boeing to design a new type of plane that is more fuel efficient, and this is what they've come up with. The goal is to cut down on emissions and have flying do less damage to the climate. NASA says the new design could use up to 30% less fuel than current planes. Leslie Josephs joins us now. And Leslie, this is a big deal because we know that planes, right, and the emissions from planes are a driver when it comes to the climate crisis. So 30% less fuel, that matters.
That's true. This will take years to develop, and just basically on the design, we're looking at a much longer wing than we're used to in the planes that we fly on every day, and that reduces fuel drag, and that's something that airlines are constantly chasing, and that's something Boeing is constantly chasing, so it could sell more aircraft. You know, fuel is airlines' biggest cost, pretty much after labor. So it is a really big deal, and they can get this big fuel savings if they couple it with a more advanced engine, and that is also in development. But again, these things take a long time. It's a reason why we don't have like a Tesla of the skies, at least on like commercial aircraft. The batteries are very heavy. So manufacturers like Boeing and Airbus are looking at everything from hydrogen to eventually maybe electric engine. But they are looking at improvements they can make, such as like wing design, fuselage design, etc.
This wouldn't be the first time that commercial private flight meaning like commercial flight and private companies, have benefited from NASA and the design expertise they have.
Yeah, NASA's roots actually go back to the early decades of flight. So there are lots of improvements that NASA has worked on, winglets, for example, which also reduce drag on aircraft, on commercial aircraft that we see them pretty often. You see them kind of on the ends of your plane, the wings sticking up. But, you know, NASA's also working on things such as supersonic flight and how to reduce that sound. So maybe we can get to where we're going a little bit faster.
Leslie Josephs, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So listen, we have some sad news to report that's just near our newsroom. Grammy Award-winning artist David Crosby has died, according to a source close to the singer. Crosby was part of two all-time great bands from the 60s, the Byrds, and Crosby's, Stills, Nash, and later Young. He won Best New Artist as part of that latter group back in 1969. Both of those bands are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I know you know probably some of his iconic songs, Wooden Ships, 8 Miles High, Gunniverse, Teach Your Children Well. 5 albums that he was a part of are on Rolling Stone's top 500 list, I should say. David Crosby was 81 years old. We'll be right back. So Instagram is out today with something you may have heard about by now, a new feature to help all of us manage our time a little better. They're calling it quiet mode. Any of us on the gram can use it, but developers are really hoping it helps teens and parents. Quiet mode is kind of like a do not disturb. It turns off notifications and it sends an auto reply if somebody DMs you. Instagram says that's so people can focus on things like driving or like studying. It's yet another example, just the latest, of social media platforms giving all of us more ways to manage how we use these apps after a lot of scrutiny over how much time people, especially teens, spend on them, how kind of addictive they are in some ways, and what that means for our mental health. Kate Snow is joining us now. What is so interesting here is the business model for like Instagram is to get people on it and looking at it. And in some ways, this kind of contradicts the business model, but it also, I think, speaks to some of the criticism that these companies get, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they would say, I know Instagram would say, look, we want people to use our app, but not if it's unhealthy. We genuinely care about our users' mental health. And, you know, some of that criticism came from, remember those internal documents and slides that came out? They were leaked out initially. And Instagram has acknowledged that they did research and found there were some negative effects of Instagram on particularly teenage girls. Now, they dispute how big the effect is. They say most teen users are having either a neutral experience or a good experience on Instagram. But I do think this is definitely a response, Hallie, to parents who are saying, myself included, right, who are saying, we need help controlling our kids' screen time. Like, what can you do to help us not have our kid on that Instagram all day, every day, all night?
I mean, I don't get enough DMs to need to turn on quiet mode. You don't even, nor do I have enough like lifetime to do that.
That's because
like,
you're not 16. But go ahead.
That's what I'm saying. But like, so here's what I'm saying. But what 16-year-old is going to like? I just wonder what's the incentive, right, for teens to turn on quiet mode? Is it going to be parental pressure? Is it because there's more of an awareness on how these apps can affect mental health?
Well, actually, I have a teen who dropped Instagram because it was too much, right? So
No
I do
way.
think, I do think
That's super interesting.
There are some teenagers out there who want to get their homework done and feel pressure to answer every DM that they get while they're doing homework. So the idea is that you set a window, you say between this time and this time, I want to go into quiet mode, and anyone who DMs you during that time will get a notification, like Hallie, if you DM me, it'll say, Kate's in quiet mode right now. So you'll know that I'm not just ignoring you. And then the other thing is, you know, teens, there's a fear of missing out, right? FOMO. So after they go out of quiet mode and go back to regular mode, they get a digest of everything they missed. Like, it gets fed to them. Here's everything you missed. So that's what they're trying to do. And then the other thing they're doing is at night, if a teen is on for more than a few minutes on Instagram between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m., Hallie, they're actually going to get a notification saying, do you want to go in to quiet mode? Maybe you should be in quiet mode right now between those hours.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Kate Snow, that is going to be fascinating to see how that works. Again, probably well beyond teens. I know some older folks who may like that too. Kate Snow, thank you very much. Yeah, appreciate it. That does it for us this hour. It is good to see you as always. We will have more for you here tomorrow, same time, same place. Thanks for being with us. More coverage picks up right now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.